do today?
What's your weekend headline, Connor?
You're gonna say he lives in my head rent free, but how about John Calipari?
Yes,
0 and
please
4,
do.
0 and 4 in SEC play. I have watched every press conference after every single game, and he has said the exact same thing. It's about the process, not the results. These kids aren't machines. There was one he ended it with, and he was like, to our fans, to our coaches, to our players, it is what it is. I don't know. I was like, how are you instilling hope in your fan base when you don't know what you're doing and you're saying, well, it's about the results. Not about the results. It's about the process. It's about growing these kids in the NBA. And I just think, God, I heard that for so long.
You think his idea, his like philosophy is just obviously it's outdated, but do you think it'll still work at any point in time in college basketball?
No.
You think that ship has sailed?
I think it's done. And I think obviously me being a Kentucky fan, it's so weird to me to see the stark difference between he's doing the same thing over at Arkansas, obviously not working. Then you got this new system here in Kentucky, Mark Pope bringing in college guys that want to play college ball, some NBA talent, of course, in recruiting. But as of right now, I don't think there's a single NBA player on this Kentucky roster, but he is winning.
Arkansas roster.
No, Kentucky.
Oh, really?
Okay. Arkansas, I mean, they've got talent. Boogie Flan will go to the NBA. But I think that's about it. But Calipari's just going to do the same thing. One and done, grab guys that'll, play 1 year and develop into NBA players and then go play in the league. And then you got to start all over from square one. Mark Pope is doing this thing where he's utilizing the transfer portal, grabbing recruits that will be NBA talent, but are willing to stick around and develop into the best possible player they can be in college. So gone are the days of the Kentucky NBA factory. That's Arkansas now, apparently. But I just think it's funny. He talks all this. We're the gold standard. I'm the gold standard system, and he's 0-4 in conference play. Probably about to be 0-5. Because they Mike Calipari shade out of the way this morning.
They got a big win over Florida this week. Missouri,
yes. Yeah,
on the road.
We were watching that.
On the road.
We were watching that today. Yeah. I mean, we got some good SEC basketball today. Obviously, Kentucky and Alabama. Locally, Vanderbilt hosting the Vols.
I will be in attendance.
He will be there. I'm sure a lot of people will be there. I'm starting to say that it might be all orange, but Vanderbilt basketball is kind of on the rise right now. So
might be back.
Might be back. I mean, they haven't had an ideal start to SEC play. I think that's just a testament to how deep this league really is. This is the best SEC we've ever seen. I told you the other day, Mississippi State. That's a ball club right there. That's a team.
Chris Jans has got himself a tough squad.
Oh, yeah.
They play like...
I just hope it'll, sustain over time. I just don't want it to turn into like a 1 to 2 year process. Then kind of like Calipari thing where you have to reset after a while, but we'll see.
Josh Hubbard has been there. This is his second year, right?
I believe so.
He's a ball player. They've got some shooters on that team too. I think the state of Mississippi right now in basketball is so deep because Ole Miss is really good too.
And they just beat Bama.
On
the road,
which scares me because I don't want to pissed off Bama coming into Rupp Arena. But the state of Mississippi is so, for a football state, it is deep basketball wise this year. And that's exciting if you're an Ole Miss or a Mississippi State fan. They played today too, I think, in basketball.
Yeah, everybody should be playing. So I put out a tweet last week. I think, according to Joe Lunardi, as of last Saturday, 13 SEC teams were projected to make March Madness. I think the number has gone down since to 11. But still, even getting 11 out of 16, that's wild.
70% of your entire conference gets in.
That'd be nuts.
By
the way, Mississippi State does play Ole Miss today.
Yeah.
So it's
the Egg Bowl basketball version.
The Egg Bowl.
It is 5:00. So that'll be fun to watch.
That'll be a fun one. I'll be watching that. But yeah, I mean, I had to get the SEC hoops out of the way. That's the lifeblood of the Connor Newt sports fandom.
And we'll get more into that, right?
Hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that. Get a little behind the curtain.
There is no iron curtain on this show. We tell you how it is.
Bingo.
No softballs.
No softballs. No.
Unrelated. Read anything good lately? Any books?
Ah.
Any summer playlists?
No, nothing that comes to mind. But I will say, I think a few books that would be recommended. There's one over your shoulder right there.
Oh yeah.
Lord, please don't hit that mailbox.
I love Joe Dubin. He's
I've
my favorite author.
Read all of his books so far. So I mean,
Really?
they're great. They're phenomenal. As for Parker Kelly, who's joining us, do you have a weekend headline?
Well, I'll just go with what we were talking about before we got on the air. The Dodgers sign another player from Japan, Roki Sasaki. I hope I'm saying that correct. And Japan is just pumping them out, right? I mean, the Dodgers now have who's the guy? I can't pronounce his name. Who's the guy they got last year? The pitcher. Yes,
Yamamoto.
Yeah,
Yorishibo Yamamoto.
And to pair that with Shohei, going to be a dangerous squad.
Oh yeah,
going to be a dangerous squad once again. So
they have, I believe, 4 players from the WBC from Team Japan, including, I think Tommy Edman was on Team Japan. Is that right? I'm thinking of
Canada.
Lars Nootbaar.
Lars
excuse me. Yeah, so only 3 of those players from Team Japan.
Lars Nootbaar.
Yeah,
Edmund was Canada.
I think South Korea.
Oh
yeah. I think I could be wrong. I have to go back.
Wildly different countries.
Oh, I'm thinking of Tyler O'Neill.
Yeah, Tyler O'Neill.
Canada,
all these Cardinals they mixed together.
Yeah.
Former Cardinals.
You give credit to the scouting department there, but yeah, that is an interesting look for sure. It just makes me wonder how the Dodgers are going to pay all these players after a while. But this deferred money is probably going into like 2050. Right?
I've been wondering that for a while, but there's no salary cap in the MLB, so I don't know how it works. But
it's just deferred money. They're just going to keep backlogging it and backlogging.
It's going to be like the Mets. What's the day they have? Who are they still paying?
It's from like the 80s.
Where's Willie? Willie, who are they still paying?
Hey, we need TD up in here.
It's a whole holiday up in New York.
Bobby Bonilla.
Yeah, Bobby Bonilla Day. That's right.
They're still paying him from the 80s?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. Until 2035.
Bobby Bonilla Day.
But yeah, it's a good headline there. Love that. We're going to get more into Titans talk. Obviously, they've signed Mike Borgonzi as their new general manager. They've come to an agreement. Yesterday when the news broke, I was listening to Jared's show and I was like, yeah, this doesn't sound right. Like they agreed, they didn't agree.
It was like they agreed, but like we haven't offered him a contract yet, but in principle, we're going to hire him, but then also not in principle. It was a whole thing. That's why part of why I can't get too excited about it. And the other reason is Chad the Viper Brinker.
The Viper.
Yeah, I've coined him as the Viper. He's the one pulling the strings. I mean, Borgonzi on paper, I think we'll get more into this in the next segment, but I think on paper he's a great hire.
Yeah.
But I'm going into it thinking he's the assistant GM because your president of football operations knows everything. That AI model is telling him all the strings to pull. So get ready to learn Cam Ward, buddy.
Just press the enter button on the keyboard and you're going to get your answers.
Yeah, you got that. Press Y to draft horrible quarterback.
So the initial tweet I saw from Schefter said that they began negotiations about a contract. And I'm like, why don't you just wait to announce the news? It sounded like Schefter was hearing different things from other sources and he just wanted to get something out there.
We are negotiating.
So that's what it sounded like.
He has part of a plan, a process, concepts of a plan.
Concepts.
I have concepts of a plan.
Oh, man. Well, speaking of concepts, I mean, if Chad Brinker's concept doesn't pan out, if you had an idea or a question, here's our question of the day. If you had to give a piece of advice to the new Titans GM, Mike Borgonzi, what's that one piece of advice? Call or text 615-737.
Wrong answers only?
Yeah, wrong answers only or right answers, either or. Call or text 615-737-1025. Again, if you had one piece of advice for new Titans GM, Mike Borgonzi, what's that piece of advice? Let us know.
Yay. Great question.
Thank you.
That's a great question.
Thank you. And we'll get more into that on the other side. You're listening to 4's Company, sponsored by LPL Financial, Nashville, and Patrick Conger. Financial planning for tomorrow so you can enjoy today. We'll get into more Titans talk on the other side right here on 4's Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. And we're back here on 4's Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Nick Frazier here alongside Connor Newt and Parker Kelly on 4's Company. Connor, we kind of prefaced it a little bit before the break. Titans, new general manager, Mike Borgonzi. Going to talk a little bit more about that. You've kind of coined the I guess, name for Chad Brinker is the Viper.
The Viper.
And I really want to ask, like, will Borgonzi be able to do his job?
That's why I can't get too excited about this hire. Like I said last segment, I think it's a great hire on paper. But there are just so many factors that go into this job. You're not the general manager. There's the C word, collaboration. Sorry, I said it. You're part of a 4-man team running this operation. Brinker, Borgonzi, Amy Adams, Callahan. Those are the 4. Everyone pitches in to make the decision when really you look at every other team around the NFL, they got one guy doing it. This is why I don't understand it. I went into this whole GM search as soon as they announced Brinker is heading a search for a general manager. I was like, yeah, that means Brinker is pulling all the strings.
Yeah.
Brinker's calling the shots. So, I mean, are they going to hire a president of radio operations next? And the voice of the Titans has to report to him. And then he reports to Chad Brinker, who is apparently Lex Luthor. I don't know. It's just Borgonzi, I think on paper is the home run hire.
Yeah.
That's the big fish. You reeled him in. He's now in your small pond. I mean, looking at his resume, he's been with the Chiefs since 2009, kind of worked his way up to the assistant GM role, and now has come over here. He played a big part in assembling some Super Bowl teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of Titans fans are excited about that coming over here. But I don't think he's going to be able to work as effectively here as he was in Kansas City, just simply because of who he's working with.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I feel like it's going to be some time, obviously, and that's something Titans fans probably don't want to hear, but are probably accepting that fact now because this team definitely needs a little bit of time to recoup from everything. And I want to read something that Chad Brinker said yesterday, kind of help with the conversation. But quote, during our meetings, he articulated a clear plan to build This is Mike talking about Borgonzi, by the way, talking about, clear a plan to build championship standards in Nashville through consistency, discipline, and hard work. I've admired him for many years, and I'm thrilled to add him to the team and our general manager. So,
sounds like an AI generated comment.
Bingo. That's where I was going towards that, is that it was so vanilla with that comment. Obviously, you got to check off the boxes. It seems Chad Brinker is just checking off boxes to just get what he wants.
I think I'm not trying to get Stillman on you and give you this giant conspiracy, but I think this is part of his plan. I think he's got kind of his, what's the word I'm looking for? His fall guy. I think Borgonzi might be the fall guy. And I'm not trying to get on this major conspiracy theory, but
right,
based on the way things are going, I wouldn't be surprised. And the text line seems to agree with me. I mean, 2883 on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com says, watch out for Brinker to stab you in the back and take credit for what you do. I mean, did he not just do that with Rand Carthon?
Yeah. And unfortunately, this is going to be a continuing cycle. Now, this has a chance to blow up in Brinker's face for sure. But if the Titans get off to a very slow start, as in like 1-4 or maybe 1-5, something around that ballpark of a number, I mentioned it before when we were at Bridgestone. I think the next person out would be Brian Callahan.
Yep.
It's going to be the same situation
100%,
of like,
100%.
It's going to be like Ken Wisenhunt days when, you didn't perform real well the first season, following season doesn't really pan out well for you. Unfortunately, somebody's got to go, and it's not going to be Borgonzi.
So let's say we get to the trade deadline next year.
Okay.
Callahan is 2-6.
Oh, he's already gone by then.
Canned?
Yeah, he's gone, I'd say, at 2-4, 2-5.
Oh, wow.
I think 2-5, he's gone.
Yeah.
So I talked about this with TD earlier this week on Talking with TD. Brian Callahan's the sacrificial lamb here.
Oh, yeah.
He has a year. In the statements that Jim White has put out on TennesseeTitans.com, Amy Adams Strunk has talked about it. Chad Brinker's talked about it. Burke Nihill's talked about it. that clearly Cali didn't do good enough last year, but nobody did. This year, he's going to be held to a higher standard. If there's not winning right away, then Cali's getting canned. And that's not necessarily fair to him. It is an unfair league. That kind of ties into the NFL draft discussion between Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. Cam Ward has the higher ceiling, but he's more of a long-term project. Shedeur Sanders is ready right now.
And they don't need a project.
Exactly.
There's
if the
no time
Titans
for a
draft
project.
Cam Ward, Cali's going to need to be guaranteed more than a year.
Yeah. I mean, this is unrelated to the GM hire, but are we all on the same page? Titans need to trade down.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I mean,
100%.
I understand if you think Shedeur or Cam Ward is your guy, you go get it. But I think you can get more value. We talked about this last week with my proposed plan. I think you can get more value for flipping it down. But that's besides the point. This is about the GM.
Real quick, before we go back to the GM, you make a good point about trading back and it relating to Brian Callahan. I mentioned before on this show, and especially I'd say 3-4 weeks ago, if the Titans were to pick a Shedeur Sanders or a Cam Ward or any other quarterback they value as the number 1 overall pick, at that point, I wouldn't say guilty by association, but pick by association, that would be considered Brian Callahan's quarterback. That's his guy.
Yeah.
He went after that guy. He's like, no, that's my quarterback future. That's going to help me build around this system that I want to build with this team.
Well, you could also pin that on Borgonzi. If they make a pick and it's, let's say they go Shedeur Sanders at 1.
Yeah.
I think in my mind, that would be Borgonzi trying to make a splash.
I don't know. Again, the word collaboration, don't want to use it, but I think it does come down to a mix of everybody, but I would put more of it on the shoulders of Brian Callahan because he has more to prove in the second season as a head coach. And obviously everybody's like, well, yeah, I took the job because Will Levis, I could do something with Will Levis.
Yeah.
Obviously wasn't able to do that. So if you go after a Shedeur Sanders or a Cam Ward, I would put more stress on the shoulders of Brian Callahan, in my opinion. That's just how I look at it. And to that point too is, if they end up trading back, if they end up getting more picks in return, that takes less stress off of Brian Callahan and more stress on Borgonzi and or Chad Brinker. This is how it could all come back up into Brinker's face.
Yeah.
As if they end up drafting and the drafting is not going well at all, that's on your operations guy. That's your Mr. Press Y to get bad draft picks. That's your guy that's going to get canned.
I just think Chad Brinker is going to go full Madden on these. Can I get a 5th and a 6th for number 1 overall? The AI model says yes. I don't know. Gunner on our text line. I want full disclosure. I started this. I want everyone to know that I started this and don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Gunner says, I wonder if Brinker ran with an F5 when he fired him. The day Chad Brinker took over, in quotes, what did I tell you in Jake Lyman?
Looks like Brock
He looks like Brock Lesnar. I want it known. You can go look at my Twitter. I want it known. I said it first. Chad Brinker looks like Brock Lesnar on drugs. But
that's fair.
It is fair. Should we change his name to the Beast now just because? I think so.
Yeah, that's more appropriate.
This isn't a G-rated program.
Oh, well.
Oh, it's G-rated. It's for everybody.
It's for
the kids love wrestling.
Kids
don't
love
they,
wrestling, and hopefully not drugs. But
they definitely don't. But no, you're right. I think Chad Brinker obviously does deserve a renaming of sorts, a nickname, and I think the Beast is perfect.
The Beast.
That's perfect.
But it's like an ironic because.
So I have a scenario for you guys. So 2 years ago, the Texans traded to get 2 picks in the top 3. They got C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson, 2 premium draft positions in football that changed the course of the franchise. What if the Titans were able to trade back to get 2 picks in the top 5, let's say, get a Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward paired with an Abdul Carter? Same format, mimic a same philosophy. What would y'all think about that?
If they got a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders
paired with an Abdul Carter.
That's not going to happen.
Abdul Carter, I believe, is the number 1 player on Mel Kiper's big board.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen.
I think that's such an outlier of a situation You're talking about the Texans, right? A couple of years ago.
Yeah, with Stroud.
Now, I don't know
Anderson.
what teams are in negotiations or who wants the number 1 pick.
The thing with this draft is I don't think there's many players like that Bryce Young, Will Anderson draft that move the needle for teams to be like, yeah, we're selling everything to go up there. If you remember, that was the draft where, Carolina sold their souls to Chicago to get Bryce Young.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a player in this draft that is like that. Travis Hunter is considered a generational talent. I don't see many teams saying, we will give you everything we have to get that guy on our team. Because I think Travis Hunter's selling point to the NFL is he plays both sides in college. Is he going to do that in the NFL? Not much. I think they plug him in at corner and maybe have a special package for him on offense every once in a while. But there's just not that it guy. Abdul Carter is a dude.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not a guy I would take at 1. I wouldn't sell my soul to get him if I'm the Giants or Raiders or someone. I just don't think I think that's such an outlier of a scenario. I can't see that happening in Tennessee.
I'm just saying, like, the Texans literally went from having the 2nd overall pick to drafting both of those players, and then suddenly they were in the playoffs 2 straight years in a row. They even won a playoff game last year. That's so much better than where they were.
Yeah, but they made moves after that to be contenders
Correct.
in the AFC South.
And I'm not saying that 2 players like that are just going to completely flip the Titans on their head, but, like, it helps.
They're foundational pieces.
Right.
I get what you're saying.
But the Texans, you look at their system. That system is vastly a front office situation, I should say. That situation is vastly, vastly improved from the one here in Nashville.
Oh, most definitely.
So, let's put our thinking caps on in Nashville.
Let me get my computer open. Make sure my
All 5 of you.
Yep.
Brinker, Amy, Callahan, Borganzi, and ChatGPT.
AI model.
AI model.
I love it. I mean, if they do actually use some form of like a AI model to draft players, I would love to just be behind the scenes.
Well, they're on the verge of curing cancer, it appears, thanks to Chad.
To the beast.
To the beast.
The Viper Beast.
The beast. I hope the beast carries over across programs.
It should.
I hope it does.
And let Connor Newt get credit for that, please.
Please. I hope you take that with you weekdays 9 to 11.
There you go.
I want that coined. The beast.
I will. And, we're going to get more into the Titans. We mentioned a little bit about the draft. And if, like Parker mentioned, good idea, if there's a ideal scenario for the Titans to get 2 picks in the top 5, or top 10, which I still think is a little bit out there, but there's a pipe dream scenario, I think. That just might be. We'll get into more of that on the other side. How about that?
Let's do that.
You know what else we can listen to today? Today on 93.3 Totally Hits Totally Nashville.
Oh, yes.
Our beloved Blue Raiders.
Oh, yes.
Former alumni here. You can listen today. MTSU men's basketball as the Blue Raiders take on Western Kentucky at the Murphy Center. Tip-off is at 6 p.m. You can hear pregame beginning at 5:30. Also, coverage will be available on Totally Hits Nashville app and totallyhitsnashville.com. Listen here to 4's Company for more Titans talk on the other side. 102.5, 106.3 The Game. You hear the music. Connor Newt.
From Minneapolis, Minnesota, weighing at 280 pounds, the Beast, Chad Brinker.
Incredible. That was incredible.
It's my dream to be a
Ring announcer.
one day. I want to do it so bad.
I see it in your future. That works. Please save that. That will be an intro to something one day.
It's saved. I'm saving that. Yeah.
Chad the Beast Brinker.
I don't know where he's actually from. I just know Brock is from Minneapolis.
Yeah.
I hope he's not 285 because that's kind of scary. But
twins, long lost twins.
Twins.
That'd be crazy.
The Beast.
So before the break, I mentioned that there might be a pipe scenario for the Titans, a pipe dream scenario for the Titans to, make this Houston Texans like idea of getting 2 picks in the top 10. The only thing that would come to mind if they were to trade out of 1, I think you would have to see. I don't know if you can get 2 picks in the top 10, but I think you can get multiple picks in return.
Yeah. I don't think you can get.
I think you can keep one in the top 5.
I think in my ideal situation, you would trade down, preferably with a team that has a top 5 pick, get their pick this year, then get their first round next year.
Bingo.
So ideally, you would have 2 first rounders next year.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not that's in the top 5, I don't know. Depends on how much you suck. But
I believe earlier, if it was this week or last week, I was listening. I believe it was TD that mentioned this. If there was a team out there to trade with the Titans for a certain scenario, if the Titans were to trade back, and I agreed with them 100%, the New York Giants, because they need a quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
As for the Titans, they don't really, in my opinion, need a quarterback. I feel like they need more.
They need a quarterback.
Don't get me wrong. I'm talking about like hindsight right now. I feel like they don't need a quarterback in this year's draft. If they do,
I'm with
later. I think they need obviously edge rusher. And if they were to go for Abdul Carter, I think you got to get him before 4 because Mike Vrabel, I would not hesitate for that guy to draft Abdul Carter at 4 if he drops.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
If you can get a quarterback at the second round, and there's one guy in particular I'm looking at that I think is a Bo Nix situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think he's not looked at enough, but
I think I know who you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about?
I think
Jackson Dart.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's been rising ever since the bowl game.
I think, if you can get that guy in the second round, how comfortable would you be? If you take, let's say, Abdul Carter in the first round, get to 33, and take Jackson Dart, I would feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, it all depends on if you were to trade back with the Giants, because then I guess in that return for that pick, number one of one, you would get their 3rd overall, maybe obviously a first next year. Then what else you getting out of that? You trying to get a 2nd or a 3rd? Like what?
I would replenish your 3rd this year. You don't have one.
So then you would take Jackson Dart with the first pick in the 2nd round. You'd be okay with that?
Yeah, if he falls. I think now they're gassing him up like he might be a top 10 pick.
Right.
That stock's been rising and rising ever since that bowl game.
We've had 2 quarterbacks previously that have had that happen to them.
Yeah.
Remember Malik Willis?
Yeah.
Everybody said, he's going to be a top pick. He dropped late into the NFL draft that year.
I'm just
Will Levis. Like, even the Titans tried to trade up for him, and they didn't get him as a first-round pick.
I saw the Malik Willis situation.
So are y'all just against, like, Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders? Like, do you believe that they'll be good quarterbacks in the NFL?
My only issue with that, Parker, if you look at Colorado this past season, and I'm not solely basing it off of, and I think Jake Lyman's only giving me flack about this, about the sacks, of that being I think a quarterback stat, not a lineman stat or something. It might have been, I don't know, whoever it was, but he was sacked 42 times this past season.
Mm-hmm.
If you go look at Will Levis and Mason Rudolph and that joint option at quarterback, it was roughly in that same ballpark of a number, a little bit more. So what makes you think behind this offensive line, Shadur Sanders is going to have, well, obviously he'll have a little bit better production, but at the same time, I even mentioned it to Jake a few weeks ago. If you're okay with going 7-9 and missing the playoffs and having something to look forward to the following season, have at it. I don't want that. I want a full-on start from the ground up, and I don't want to start with a quarterback.
I'm with you.
Well, here's my thing. Here's my rebuttal. So going back to the stats, I agree that it's not. It is a quarterback stat kind of, but it's not necessarily all Shadur's fault. Like
No,
Right,
you're
their
right.
offensive line was terrible.
Well,
He
I
was the most
understand.
sacked quarterback in FBS last year. He was a top 5 most sacked quarterback this year.
Right.
The thing with Shadur is he's used to playing behind terrible offensive lines, so I don't think that would phase him coming to the Titans. Now, Shadur, there were most certainly times he held on to the ball too long, and that's something that he's going to have to develop at when he gets to the league. But he's the most pro-ready quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
And the most foundational piece, if you're trying to rebuild a team, is the quarterback. You got to solidify that first.
I stand with Chase on this. Chase says, if you're going to take Shador, you have to be 110% certain. I'm fine if you take Shador. I really am. But you have to be 100% bought in and certain that
I'm bought in on both Sanders and Ward. Like, I have not wavered off of that. I'm bought in.
I'm more bought in on Sanders than I am Ward. I think Ward's
just going to need, if you draft Cam Ward, you're going to need a bridge quarterback.
Yes.
But let him sit for a year.
I think there's too many elements of Will Levis in Cam Ward's game.
Sure.
Cam Ward is not as athletic as Shador. Shador can get outside the pocket more. Cam Ward's more of a pocket passer. And I think he tends to make some poor decisions that lead to, the back-breaking turnovers we're used to seeing with Will Levis. So
it's fair.
Why not change up the game a little bit if you're going to go quarterback and go Shador, who, is, as Parker said, probably the most pro-ready quarterback in this draft.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a good thing we're not making this decision.
Yeah. My only issue with the Shador Sanders talk is obviously this is the not easy answer, but the easy conversation piece. Take out Travis Hunter out of that equation with Shador Sanders at Colorado. Sure, he's probably going to have not the best stats, like in comparison to what he had, already.
Yeah.
But also, if you add on to that as well, he's going to have to really recreate that chemistry if he were to be drafted to the Titans with Calvin Ridley, if NWI is, going to come back. He's going to have to build chemistry. Obviously, that's with every rookie quarterback. Yeah, but if the Titans are wanting that like, this is our foundational piece for the future, we got to make sure that, like he was saying, you're either 100% or you're not. And I don't think I wouldn't say general manager because we don't know what the guy's about yet, but I don't think, and this is off assumption, you have a president of football operations in Chad Brinker, and then you have Mike Borgonzi and Brian Callahan. Those three guys, I don't know if they're all in on Brian Callahan. I don't know anything behind the scenes, but that's my assumption. You bring in a new name and a new face, and he all of a sudden is all on the same page with you guys about getting Shador Sanders. I think there's going to have to be some conversations behind the scenes. And I'm not, and personally for me, from my, look at Shador Sanders, I'm not sold on getting a quarterback of one. I think there's a lot of real estate for the Titans to go and trade back with another team, because if you want to set your franchise up for success in the future, you build through the draft. You look at the Detroit Lions. You look at the LA Rams, who are in the playoffs.
They draft so well.
They drafted phenomenal. They had a bunch of 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round picks, and they turned them into phenomenal players. Those guys that have been drafted to the Rams, they've played a huge asset of a piece into their playoff run.
Well, you saw those reports that supposedly Chad Brinker didn't want Callahan back. Supposedly. And the people that I've talked to, the thought is around the building that the front office loves Cam Ward. I'm sure you've seen on Twitter that he's the favorite to go number 1. But Callie likes Shador, so there's already a little bit of button heads.
See, I don't know anything behind the scenes at all, but what you just said there, that clarifies my case earlier. You have 3 names in your top heads of Callahan, Brinker, and Borgonzi. It doesn't seem like anybody's on the right page right now.
I know a few things. I can't tell you those, but I can tell you I wouldn't buy into the Cam Ward smoke. Yeah, for the Titans at least. Based on what I've been told and what I've heard from numerous sources inside the organization, I wouldn't buy into the Cam Ward
I want to know
smoke.
Sources, man. I don't got no. All I got's a source start on my TV where it changed channel source.
HDMI 2.
That's my source. That's what I got.
That's my favorite source.
And also to that point too about the quarterback hype, what y'all are talking about, I think to me that's more of a smoke for, trading back. If the Titans are not talking about it, that in my opinion would be off the beaten path. That's what might happen. So I don't know. There are 3 different scenarios out there. We'll have to see, but we need to get to something more important. It's time for Newt's Notes on the other side. Stay tuned here to 4's Company, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. You hear the music, Connor Newt. It's time for Newt's Notes here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hey, make sure to tune into the game today for Vandy men's basketball. The Commodores take on Tennessee at Memorial Gym at 2:30 with tip-off and pregame show starting at 2. Coverage is also available on the 102.5 The Game app and 102.5thegamenashville.com. Vanderbilt men's basketball presented by Athletes Unlimited Pro Basketball. Coming to Nashville's Municipal Auditorium February 5th through March the 2nd. Go to auprobasketball.com for more details and to purchase your tickets. 102.5, 106.3 The Game, 4's Company. Nick Frazier alongside Connor Newt and Parker Kelly. It's time for Newt's Notes. Get on with it, Connor. Let's hear it.
Okay, so I get on here a lot and rant about sports fandoms. Thank you.
welcome.
Did you guys know I'm now a published author?
I did not.
I present to you the Newt Handbook of Sports Fandom. If you're watching the stream, there it is.
Where's my tea?
I know. So I will read to you the rules and ways to go in the world of sports fandom. Number 1, thou shalt not have more than one favorite team. You get one. Everyone knows this. That's my number 1 pet peeve across sports. Now I go into a bit more detail with the next one. In the event of having, quote, multiple teams, you must have a reason. Example, family connections, religious, childhood experiences, etc. The secondary team cannot overlap the primary team. For example, as you can see, I am wearing all blue. It has always been Go Cats in my family, but I do like me some Ole Miss Rebels due to my family connections. Do I let the Rebels overlap the Wildcats? Absolutely not. But you're allowed to like them. In number 3, in the world of college sports, your team must be constant throughout all sports. For example, Alabama football and Kentucky basketball fans are worthy of execution. Now, I'm not threatening death on anyone, but
All right, Brian Kelly.
you're not allowed. It's not permitted. Duke basketball and Dallas Cowboy fans are not permitted in this world. Number 4, random college apparel is allowed as long as it is not a rival or conference opponent. College football 25 program representation is encouraged. So I have my Ducks hat because I am Coach Newt and I coach the Oregon Ducks. It is allowed. Now, if I were to show up in, a Louisville hat, first off, you'd never catch me doing that. I may actually throw myself off a bridge if I did that. But yeah, it's encouraged. If you wanted to come in, Nick Frazier, and wear a Notre Dame Fighting Irish shirt, it would be permitted
Thank you.
because you are a Catholic individual, as am I. And it's Go Irish this Monday.
It's fair.
Ditching a fandom is banned. Should one ditch their fan base for another, they should never be considered a real fan and should be exiled from the country.
Wow, that's strong.
Yeah,
That is serious.
it's self-explanatory, fellas. If I am a Kentucky fan and I decide, you know what, it's great to be a Tennessee Volunteer, kick me out of this country immediately. Send me to Greenland. I don't want to be around anymore.
I'd accept you.
Nah, you're breaking the laws here. When attending a sporting event, you must stay the entire game barring an emergency. Money should never be thrown away. That's another thing I cannot stand is when you go to a game and my team's losing, I'm going to leave. Inappropriate. You're throwing money away. What if there was a child in Africa that really wanted to come to Titans and Colts at Nissan Stadium
In the rain.
in the rain, in 40-degree rain, to watch Will Levis play quarterback in front of 2,000 fans?
Literally wiping away your tears with $100 bills.
Just shame on you. Never yell at a person for cheering and showing support. If you do, you are subject to old man yells at cloud status.
AKA Joe Rexrod.
Yes. That's a thing at Rupp Arena. The season ticket holders, they're all of an elder audience. They do not like it when you stand up and cheer because they think this is an opera and you're supposed to sit down and be quiet and watch everyone. It's a golf match to them.
You clap every once in a while.
Yes, you can silent clap. As the music behind me suggests, you may snap. But get rowdy. You're allowed to get electric. In a place like Rupp Arena, we encourage it. In Memorial Gym, it's encouraged. As is booing every foul, apparently, which I have noticed is a thing that happens at Memorial. But that's just what happens. Admiration of specific players should never switch your fandom. Remain loyal now. Remain loyal no matter the roster. So if I am, let's say, I love LeBron James, I'm going to be a Laker fan because I love LeBron James, even though I live in Nashville, Tennessee. Banned. Execution.
Question.
Answer.
I did that for Peyton Manning. And Peyton Manning's the only athlete I'd ever do that for.
So you became a Colts fan for Peyton Manning or a Broncos fan?
So I've been a Titans fan my whole life, but When Peyton Manning was on the Colts, I did like the Colts. When he was on the Broncos, I liked the Broncos.
That's fine as long as it doesn't overlap your fandom.
When he was on the Colts, did that overlapped?
See, that's tough.
That's a tough
But
one.
Peyton Manning, again, like my favorite athlete of all time. So
I think it'd slide.
I think
I think
he was
that-
also a lot younger. I mean, I was a child when he was on the Colts. What was that?
And then he went to the Broncos in 2013. I was 12.
I liked him when he was on the Broncos, and I'm a Kentucky fan. So I'll let that one slide.
Okay.
The Supreme Court rules it is okay. Rivalries are to be treated with respect and not a personal matter. After the game ends, rivals should shake hands and wish each other well later down the line. This will happen next Saturday between Parker Kelly and I when the Vols and the Wildcats meet. It's going to be beef all week.
Twitter beef will
Twitter
be legendary.
Beef. Yeah, we're going to
Cats by 90.
Cats by 90. Sorry. Something in the air today.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's that cold air. Just give me
cough.
my.
We're on Tennessee Sports Talk Radio.
On Tennessee radio? Are you kidding me? And finally, allow a fan to grieve after a tough loss. Bad things happen to good people. If I want to miss work the next day because the Cats just got embarrassed on national television, damn it, I should be allowed to do that. I hope Chase is listening. Because damn it, I should be allowed to grieve. Bad things happen to good people, and I'm a good person.
Indeed
I think.
You are.
Most of the time. But yeah, I'm going to send this to the New York Times. They're going to publish this. This will become a bestseller by the time I'm done with it.
You need to write all this down, man. This is incredible.
It's all written down.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Get you a cover and everything.
Well, I got a cover. See?
Oh, just
It's in,
I love it.
Sanskrit cursive.
So an interesting thought was brought up by Curtis on our live chat over here. He said, what if you, then this would apply to me as well. What if you grew up a Braves fan, but then Nashville happens to get an MLB team? What happens then?
So that would be Article 9. No, I'm just kidding. My dad, for example, obviously grew up in the 80s. So he was a Bears guy, and then the Titans came here. Over time, he slowly, gradually shifted towards the Titans. So if you want to do that, that's fine. I think you could make an exception. Terry on our text line says you shouldn't work for a radio in a state and cheer for another state team. Not on Tennessee radio, buddy. No Vols fans allowed on Vanderbilt flagship radio at all. Zero.
One right here, baby.
Banned, apparently.
Connor, dude, I will say this is quite a in-depth analysis of your sportsbook fandom.
Well, it was inspired by a certain someone across the street who I learned is a Indiana basketball fan and a Notre Dame football fan.
Oh,
which is a double no-no.
Buck.
That is a big no-no.
Yeah, not okay.
It's a flat tire no-no. That's
Flat
what it
tire.
is.
I mean, that's a keister in your car. Wait, what? That is a
It's a flat tire no-no is what it is.
what? I don't know what I was trying to say.
Connor, man, appreciate the what was the proper name for it? The Newts.
It is the Newt Handbook of Sports Fandom.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's what you have here for Newt's Notes today.
I'll
And
quote tweet this. Maybe I'll be on a random Georgia news article like they didn't tell me I was.
That's ridiculous. I remember you sent that in there. I was like, are you kidding me?
For context, I had put out a list months ago of the top SEC arena environments. And a random Georgia Bulldogs fan site, I guess, they used my tweet, didn't ask me, didn't tell me anything, and just put me on there.
Do you think they would do that, though? They won't ask you.
No.
They're just going to use it. Bulletin board material.
Yeah, it's bulletin board. Well, I had them high. It was literally like
Top 3, right?
number 2.
Yeah.
I think it was
If
behind.
they're not one, you're a hater. That's basically what it is.
Well, the whole article, the premise was the national media is low on Sanford Stadium. I had them at number 2 behind Tiger Stadium, which is LSU. So they're like, Nashville radio host has Sanford Stadium super high. And I didn't hear anything about it. I wasn't contacted. I demand money. I'm just kidding. I don't actually care. But it would have been nice to
Demand recognition.
I got recognized. Like they plugged my handle and everything. It was cool, but like I would like to know that I'm actually out there because I didn't find out till like 6 months later when my friend was like, "Hey, did you know that you are on local Athens uh, reports or whatever?"
You know what you should do? Go down to Athens, Georgia. Go
Ra-
to a local morning breakfast spot.
Raise hell.
No, just see if you get a free breakfast out of it. That's what I would do.
Can I be on the wall
And sign your name
and
and
sign my
autograph.
name?
Yeah.
It's like the Golden Hall. I'll take a red jacket, please.
On the next edition of Newt's Notes, on the road edition. Exactly.
I really should have brought you guys some tea
You should have. I was
with that
wondering,
music.
where was my tea? I
That's
need
on
some-
you.
Yeah,
it's all
that's
good.
on me.
I'll bring pancakes next time. How about
Oh,
that?
yes. Please.
We're going to get more into college basketball and fandoms and so forth in the next hour here on 4's Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
4's Company here with you on this Saturday morning. Connor Newt, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly behind the ones and twos. 4's Company is brought to you by LPL Financial, Nashville, and Patrick Conger. Earlier in the show, Nick Frazier asked the question of the day, with GM Mike Borgonzi being hired by the Titans into this trash shoot of a franchise, we will call it. What advice do you have for GM Borgonzi? Now, before we give our answers, we do have some answers on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 2312 says, I would tell him to read The Art of War and to watch his back. Not watch out for the beast.
Yes.
We'll say. I'll give you mine. I would tell him, as 38 Special once said in 1983, hold on loosely. Don't let go. Just be very careful,
or you'll lose control.
If you cling too tightly, you will lose control. So just hold on loosely. Don't get too attached there, Borgonzi. I think you're gonna find that your coworkers are not to be trusted, in my opinion. I don't work there. I work here. And apparently we are only allowed to cheer for in-state teams on Tennessee radio.
Apparently.
On Tennessee. I mean, I could counter that with most people that work here are not fans of teams in state. I'm Kentucky. Frazier's Mississippi State. Jake Lyman, who is not here today, he's off calling Vanderbilt track and field. Obviously, he works for Vanderbilt, but he's actually a Virginia Tech fan. Jared's a Louisville fan. D-Mace, Rex Road are both Michigan State fans. Willie's a Vanderbilt fan because he played there. Adam Vingan's a Duke fan. Oh, everyone.
Robbie's a Vols guy.
Robbie's a Vols guy.
The
but
state exception.
State exception. You know, 9 out of 10 people that work here are not fans of teams in state. So let's get our facts straight before we say that.
First choice, a better way to put it.
First choice. First choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we all kind of root for Vanderbilt because we work for them.
Yeah.
They're nice people. Allegretta's a nice guy. Kevin's a cool guy.
Friends of the show.
We've had both on, I believe.
Yeah.
I know we've had Allegretta on a couple times. He's been awesome every time. So, yeah, I mean, but that's not about this anymore.
I wonder what they have for Borgonzi. What advice they have.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What advice do you have for Borgonzi?
Me?
Yeah.
Let's just say make sure the ball bounces your way. That's what I would tell him. Make sure the ball bounces your way.
I hope he is ready for a holiday we have in Nashville, a national holiday called Feast of the Ass.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah, I forgot.
Frazier knows all about Feast of the Ass.
Yeah, that was a what day is it type thing a few days ago. I forgot about that. Yeah, there's a lot of what day is it for
Feast of the Ass.
So there's that.
Not that ass. It's the
animal.
The animal.
Yep.
That saw baby Jesus in the manger.
Yeah, you're right. You know, something that reminded me of just advice to give Borgonzi. Probably another thing of advice I would say is to stay clear of, I'd say 440. That'd probably be my honest opinion. Stay clear of 440.
24. Huh? Stay away from 24, man.
Yeah.
Oof. I have to take 24 to get to Murfreesboro every day, and there's not a lot of bright people that ride that road.
There's not a lot of bright people that just drive in general across Nashville. So just putting that out there. Parker, you have anything for Borgonzi?
Any advice for the man? And he's going to enter the Hall of Mikes too.
He is.
It's just hard for me. Like on paper, this is a probably the best move. He was my favorite candidate, but games aren't played on the paper; they're played on the grass. So
nice. Danning said that.
Yeah, that's right. Here's my thing. I just wish the roles were more defined on what's actually like. Is he going to be the GM or is it going to be Chad Brinker? It's hard for me to offer advice because I don't know what his role is going to be. Like, I don't know what all his job entails, if that makes sense.
You can still give him advice. You don't have to.
As far as Nashville, yeah, staying clear of I-40, I guess. I don't have much for him, honestly. But
another thing is,
honestly, he should be giving everybody here advice. He's coming from the best franchise in the NFL over the last couple of years. So,
Big Joe has told me this before, but I'm going to use it. Another thing Borgonzi needs to know is there are like 182 roads in Tennessee called Old Hickory Boulevard, and we know where none of them are. So Just be wary of that.
We have a text from our friend Indy Ben. You
Yeah.
ready for this?
Yeah.
It's not advice, but he'd like to know who held Borgonzi at gunpoint to take this job, probably the most dysfunctional organization, which is so true.
Thank you, Indy Ben.
Thank
Hey,
you,
do you
Indy
cheer for
Ben.
a team that's in state?
That is a great
Indy
question.
Ben.
That's a
He
great
doesn't.
question.
He's a Colts guy.
Exactly.
But
Oh my goodness, that was a good little comment there from Indy Ben. Yeah,
I'd love to hear Big Joe's advice for Borgonzi. I'm sure he's got some great tips.
Yeah, he probably does. I would say this for Borgonzi as well. Last name comes off as a little bit of Italian. I'd just say
Borgonzi.
there are a few places that are Italian foods that you can eat around the area, but steer clear of Olive Garden and so forth.
Mike Borgonzi.
Yeah,
You might be a relative of yours.
hey,
You don't know.
maybe.
You may meet him at the Maggiano's.
Yeah, maybe. I don't
He
know.
sounds like Borgonzi. He sounds like a mob boss to me.
Yeah,
Like straight out of The Godfather or something.
something like that, like a consigliere or something.
Consigliere.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's just who held him. He said he held him at gunpoint. That made me think Goodfellas.
I will say though too about the whole Borgonzi hiring, I feel like is the right choice.
I think it's the right choice. I think it is the best available hire on paper. How much that role is defined? Did they lie to his face and said, "Yeah, you're gonna have full control of the roster and do whatever you want," and blah blah blah. And it is. Big Joe has chimed in.
Oh, please
to give us advice.
Please do.
Big Joe's advice is, don't take the job.
Well,
that's pretty good advice.
I think that's kind of already happened. You mentioned paper earlier. We got a phone call from Kenny the Mailman.
Kenny the Mailman. What's up, Kenny? How are you?
Just 1 second. Just a second. And now finished. Actually, I'm reading Joe Dubin's book while I'm delivering mail.
Oh, yeah.
That was good.
Have y'all ever read his book?
Oh, yeah. All three.
It sits right behind me.
I bought it. I bought it for a lot of my family for Christmas, and their favorite part is the dot-to-dot section in the back.
Oh, Kenny, what do you got for Borgonzi?
Oh, I've got 3 pieces of advice. First, rent.
Mm-hmm.
Because you might be on the way out before you could actually get your money back from your house. And you've got to learn the 2 slogans of the Titans organization, that is, the owners. One is that I want all the credit and none of the blame.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 is fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, strike 3. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you, Kenny. You too. I'll give him some advice that my grandfather always gave me. You can pick your friends and you can pick your nose, but don't pick your friend's nose.
Yeah, don't do that.
So don't pick Chad Brinker's nose, please.
He probably won't even let you get close to him.
Yeah, he may pick you up and give you the F5, the beast.
You don't want that.
No, you don't. Hey, we got some basketball today to get into.
Do we?
I have the helm now. You bet your ass we're talking basketball.
I'm in for it.
We'll continue the conversation. SEC men's hoops talk coming up next on 4's Company 102.5, 106.3, The Game. So this is a 9 to 11 a.m. show, but it's not quite Monday through Friday.
No, not at all.
Just
Nor
making
in-
sure.
Yeah.
4's Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Connor New alongside Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly behind the ones and twos. And fellas, we got some hoopsketball to play today down south.
Not basketball.
Not basketball. I did watch that the other day.
It's a great
It was
movie.
on. It was just on cable, or not cable, but like just on a random channel. So I was like, okay, I'll tune in. It's one of those movies you can drop in anywhere and still have zero context of what's going on.
You know, last week when I was talking about the odd sports, I was trying to find if there was a professional basketball league.
There needs to be.
And there isn't one. There needs to be.
There needs to be. There's Quidditch.
There's curveball. Curveball, that is.
Curveball.
Curveball.
There needs to be corkball.
Yes.
I've told you about corkball before.
It's great.
Corkball is great. But big time matchups today in the SEC. Of course, the big daddy of them all. Number 4 Alabama at Rupp Arena taking on number 8 Kentucky. Alabama coming off a tough loss at home to Chris Beard and the Ole Miss Rebels. Kentucky, of course, riding off of a win against, I am blanking on who they just beat. Texas A&M. Thank you. Yes. Top 15 Texas A&M. I will tell you, I don't feel great about this as a Cats guy. I don't feel fantastic. I think Alabama's going to come in mad, and Alabama's a team where if they're shooting the lights out and hitting their shots, they will beat you.
Are you worried about the 11 a.m. tip-off?
No, because they've had a few of those this year. I think if anyone can get them motivated to play a 11 a.m. game, 12 p.m. for their time, it's Marcus Pope. I think he's the motivator of the SEC. Maybe that's my bias speaking, but I think he is arguably the front runner for SEC Coach of the Year, if not national. But it's just, I feel like this is a tough game. Every game in the SEC is a tough game, but I feel like the way things played out this week, this means more for Alabama than it. Not that it means more, but Alabama is playing to keep their name and reputation alive as a top program in this nation. Kentucky is looking to play spoiler and kind of do the same thing. Continue that resume. They're 5-0 against top 15 teams this year. I think it's tough for me to say outright they're going to go in there and they're going to win. I think Alabama will definitely give them a tough stretch. I think Mark Sears has a great game, arguably the best point guard in the SEC. I don't know. It's just tough for me to say, Kentucky's going to go in there and they're going to win.
I want to ask about Lamont Butler. I mean, the guy's been pretty solid all year for Kentucky.
Yeah.
In some cases, you could say probably one of the more important pieces to that roster.
Mm-hmm.
But what has to work for him today? Is it more the assisting of things or actually putting up the points?
So Lamont Butler to me is the absolute motor of this team. If he sets the pace. Now against Texas, he's questionable today because against Texas A&M, he was getting beat up and beat up and beat up. Like every time he went for a shot, it was contested, and I mean he was taking some hard fouls. If he is in there, I feel much better about their chances because he reminds me of a Chris Paul in a way. He's a facilitator. He sets guys up. A lot of what he does is, pick and roll stuff, get it down in the post to Andrew Carr or Amari Williams or even Brandon Garrison, who I think is weak. But anyways, he is the motor of this team. He is what drives it. You saw against, was it Ohio State? He was out. They lost that game because they couldn't quite find the right tempo and guys weren't spacing the floor the way they should. He's a floor general, for lack of a better term. So I think that's honestly, I think that's the key for them to win. If Lamont Butler has a good day, and Jackson Robinson too, if he's hitting his shots, and maybe even Kobe Brea, who's been a little inconsistent as of late, if they are unconscious as usual from beyond the arc, I think they can win. But that's enough with the Cats. I could spend the entire show talking about them. The other one, locally, Vanderbilt hosting the Vols, big in-state rivalry. Mark Byington has got Vandy playing some high level ball.
You can hear that today, by the way, 2:30.
2:30
2 o'clock
here on this station.
Yes.
Or you can go down there, not Coliseum, Gymnasium. Parker Kelly will be there. Not in orange because banned. But Mark Byington, rough start to the SEC conference play for him, but he's got the doors at 14-3. Is Vanderbilt basketball back in quotes?
To answer that, I'd say it's back in the right direction.
Yes.
It is back in the right direction. I mean, I'm buying in on Mark Byington. This guy, he's done well for this team this season. I mean, sure, the conference schedule is 2-2, but we're just getting there. We're just starting.
Yeah, we're just getting going.
You're only revving up the engine. But overall, this team has definitely shown signs of improvement. They've shown signs they're going in the right direction. I watched their game against South Carolina the other night. There were, a few things.
What a finish to that one, too.
Yeah, I will say I was a little concerned at the end because they had a lead at one point and it just kind of dissipated. And then, I mean, that's basketball. You go off of momentum. But overall, I think what Byington's doing with Vanderbilt is a pretty solid job. But as for them going into Memorial Gym, taking on Tennessee, I kind of take a jab every once in a while at Tennessee. I mean, it's not on purpose. Well, sort of on
purpose. It is on purpose.
In a little bit.
You can say.
No, it's on purpose.
It's okay. You can say.
It's a part of my laundry list, okay? I got to do it. So, but I don't know. I'm a little on the fence about Vanderbilt today. I think they have a good chance of beating Tennessee. Some people may think otherwise, but I think anytime you're in a rivalry game, you throw out any favorites in games. It's straight down the middle.
I will say Tennessee's offense has gone stagnant.
Yeah.
To start SEC play. Had a bit of a get-right game at home the other day against Georgia, beating them by 18. But we're not seeing the same Chaz Lanier we saw in non-conference. We're not seeing the same what's his name?
Igor Milicic.
No, that's not the
Sakai Ziegler.
Jordan
Gainey. He had 19 last game.
Yeah. Well, he had his get-right game. But it's just a bit of a stagnant show. Or I've lost my train of thought. Big Joe just
Let me help
me.
you. Chaz Lanier has struggled the last 2 weeks, but against Georgia, others picked up the slack, like Jordan Gainey, who had 19. Sakai Ziegler, who is now the all-time leading steals person in UT basketball history. He just passed Santiago Vescovi. He has 214. He was a flamethrower. He turned into a flamethrower in the second half, made 4 straight threes. So Sakai Ziegler picked up the slack, but Chaz Lanier certainly has to get back on track against a really good Vandy team. It's tough to shoot in Memorial Gymnasium, as other teams are well aware of, and this is a much different Vanderbilt team. So.
I wonder why. Yeah, I think Vanderbilt makes it close for the first half. Then I think Tennessee comes alive and kind of takes it. They're playing for a lot. I think they're pissed off that they lost number 1. They're down to number 6 now. But just the Egg Bowl in basketball
At the hump, I believe.
at the hump. What do we think about that, Nick Frazier?
I'm nervous. I mean, as for you, you're probably nervous about your Kentucky Wildcats, but I'm nervous today. I think Mississippi State has their work cut out for them because, I mean, every team in the SEC this year is definitely, sorry, my phone. Every team this year, it's just they're difficult. It's not a cakewalk. Like, you have some seasons where one team is not great, the other team is not great. No, both teams are really good this year. I mean, it's a top 25 matchup. Mississippi State at 15, Ole Miss at 21. But if Mississippi State's going to want to win, they gotta win the 3-point game, in my opinion.
Yep.
I think they really take care of the ball inside the paint. But overall, their 3-point game outside the arc has to really hit for them.
Mississippi State has more of a high-powered offense than Ole Miss does.
Yeah.
Ole Miss relies heavily on defense. Chris Beard is a good coach, but I think Mississippi State gets it done today. I think they need a get-right game after dropping one to Kentucky and then losing again to who'd they lose to? Who am I blanking on?
Was it Texas A&M?
Yes, I believe so.
Texas
yes.
A&M. They are 2-2 in conference play. I think they need a get-right game. And I think
Well,
Ole Miss
they
does
lost
that.
back-to-back games against Auburn and then Kentucky.
That's right.
it was
that's right.
Auburn.
Not A&M.
Auburn.
And
Kentucky played.
You got to
A&M.
admit, both those teams,
Those are good teams.
yeah.
I mean,
one
when
of
you're
them's number one overall in the nation.
when
So,
you're playing in the SEC, I mean, there are going to be no gimmies. Every week is just going to be a battle. These teams are just going to beat up on each other.
Right.
I mean, you look at who Georgia's played even the last 2 weeks. I mean, they've beat 2 top-ranked teams before they lost to Tennessee, but it is just it is a complete it's warfare.
It's a gauntlet.
yeah, I mean, as for Mississippi State, though, looking at their schedule, I mean, they took care of majority of their out-of-conference games. They had that one loss to Butler. I remember watching that game out in Hendersonville. But this team needs to take care of business in conference play, kind of like Vanderbilt in the same situation. They're both 2-2. Obviously, the little shaky starts in conference, but we'll see. We'll see.
We will see indeed. Speaking of gauntlets, over across the pond on the gridiron in college sports, we got 2 teams that have made it to the end of the gauntlet. Ohio State and Notre Dame, the 7 and the 8. Ohio State, I think, favored by 8. We will break that matchup down coming up next. The national championship this Monday. We will break it down next on 4's Company 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Heavy on the Beastie Boys today, are we?
Pretty heavy.
Loving it. Loving it. 4's Company 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Sorry, I was looking to see if I had a read, and I apparently don't. But Connor Newt, joined by Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly behind the 1s and 2s. And fellas, we got a big game coming up on Monday. Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman have survived the gauntlet and are playing in the national championship against the seemingly unbeatable at the time Ohio State Buckeyes. Ryan Day and company. Ryan Day finally decided, hey, we have receivers. Let's use them. Big game on Monday. Ohio State heavy favorites. I believe I read this is the lowest or the biggest underdog margin
in a national
in the
championship.
national championship history, and for Notre Dame since playing Ohio State 2 years ago in Notre Dame. So big matchup. What are the keys to victory for either team?
I mean, I'll start with Notre Dame because I feel like it's an easier look at them. Riley Leonard has to be throwing the football well, has to be hitting it on all cylinders, making sure his reads are proper, all the above. Kind of making sure the football's secure if that's in the run game or if Riley Leonard's the one running outside the pocket because he likes to tend to use his legs from time to time.
Yes, he does.
I honestly think for Notre Dame's sake on defense, just make sure you're aware in the secondary because I think the Ohio State offense is just lethal at any point in time. As for Ohio State, run the football. Just keep running the football, in my opinion.
You got two premier backs in your backfield, and Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson.
Yeah.
Use them. On the other side, I think the run game will be ineffective for Notre Dame because the Ohio State front seven is just the big red wall.
Yeah.
Lethal. That saying, I think you're right, and Riley Leonard needs to be throwing the football effectively because other than Caleb Downs, who I stand by my take, he will be a top 5 pick next year in the NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
That secondary is pretty depleted. All they do is, based on what I saw against Texas, all they can do is hold. There were quite a few holding penalty, pass interference, holding called on the secondary, and I think Notre Dame needs to take advantage of that. Even if Riley Leonard isn't completing his passes, you throw it up there and they hold you, guess what's coming out? Some yellow laundry on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for Notre Dame, it's Riley Leonard. He's the X factor in this game. If he is playing the way he needs to play, running the football diligently, and even completing his passes, which we know he's not a premier passer, but if he's completing his passes, I think Notre Dame has a shot.
Well, I mean, remember, they're students at Notre Dame. They don't go to Notre Dame just to play football. They're smart. They're smart football players.
They're smart people.
That IQ is up there for sure. And you're right about Riley Leonard too. It just you underthrow a football on purpose, you're going to catch some laundry. And I think that's something that Notre Dame might need to use to their advantage.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to hear an interesting stat?
Sure.
Always.
So Ohio State in the FBS is 134th in opponent penalization, which means Ohio State does not get many breaks, if at all, when it comes to penalties. And that was very evident against Texas.
Yep.
I assume both teams are going to not stray from what got them to the national championship. Notre Dame likes to play a lot of man coverage, and Ohio State, since the Michigan loss, has just been lethal with getting the balls to their aliens at wide receiver. Will Howard's been playing great. I actually think that the run game is probably the weakest area of Ohio State when it comes to offense.
Really?
I would agree with you.
I do.
No, I would agree with you.
Because they've had to shuffle. They've had 5 different lineups when it comes to their offensive line because they've just been so riddled with injuries. On the flip side, Notre Dame they're going to be without their left tackle. They're going to be without their right guard. They're without one of their defensive tackles. They're just as injured as well. I do not see a world in which Notre Dame has many possibilities of them winning this game.
Yeah, it's definitely a matchup to look at. I think it's more one-sided for the team in scarlet and gray than it is for blue and gold. But let me ask you this.
All right.
If Ohio State goes out there, craps the bed, and loses the national championship to Notre Dame, do we put Ryan Day right back on that hot seat?
I mean, Ohio State fans will say yes.
Why?
Why?
I would say no.
They didn't win a national championship. I'm just saying from a perspective of Ohio State. I'm not an Ohio State fan. But that's probably what the temperature's like.
It's a $20 million roster.
They're short-fused.
They are.
It's a short-fused fan base.
Oregon spent more on their roster than Ohio State did.
Did they?
$25 million
How'd
for
that
Oregon.
work for them?
Exactly. So, I mean, listen, Ryan Day is one of the winningest coaches in college football. And like I actually brought this up to Frazier when we were filling in for Stillman a couple weeks ago. There are only 2 active coaches with the national championship, Dabo Swinney and Kirby Smart. So either Marcus Freeman, Ryan Day, we're going to have a guaranteed coach this year who's never won a national championship, win one. So
if you were to ask me right now to pick take the roster out of it everything about Ohio State and Notre Dame out of it. Ask me to pick who I want the coach to be of my program, Marcus Freeman or Ryan Day. I would take Marcus Freeman.
Agreed.
That guy knows the X's and O's of football. He has coached his way into wins. Look at the Penn State game. Coached his way into that win. The Georgia game was a coaching masterclass because they got him on 4th and 1. He brings out the special teams, gets them to jump, moves the ball. They win that game. Just a coaching coaching masterclass.
Stadium Pulse.
Yeah, it's been bad today.
I'll say this too. You mentioned a good point about Marcus Freeman. I don't want to. I guess I should say it's more of a quick history of just recently. He reminds me a little bit of Mike Vrabel. The way Vrabel would manage the clock and
manipulate
things of false starts and the clock keeps on running.
I hadn't thought about that.
Like, I don't want to compare him to Mike Vrabel, but I guess resembles some qualities and the type of coach he is, where it is, putting out a punt team and then bringing out the offense again and so forth, stuff like that. So I think, if I were to start with somebody, it would be Marcus Freeman.
Yeah, I think that's a coach you could build around for sure.
And he's made Notre Dame likable.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to watch Notre Dame play. I'd like to see. We'd all like to see a really good game, but just don't know how realistic that is because Ohio State looks like a supernova Death Star. But
I don't know. I think you're going to get a pretty good national championship game. I still think the outcome is going to be the same of what I've said in weeks past, but I think it'll be closer than what the spread is saying on all these on the internet here on ESPN.com. I mean, it says the line opened up at 9.5, and then it's now dropped to 8.5, but we'll see.
There's like a really fine line of, Michigan had one possibility that they could beat Ohio State, and sure enough, it played out that way. I think if Notre Dame is able to bait Ohio State into running the football like they did against Michigan, then Notre Dame can win. But the thing is, I don't see Ohio State being stupid enough, for lack of a better term, to kind of go after the bait.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. National championship, you throw everything out the window. I wouldn't be surprised if Marcus Freeman throws in a few trick plays while we're at it.
I would not be surprised by that.
I mean, might as well, right? You got to throw the kitchen sink at it.
For two premier programs, feels like a David versus Goliath matchup for sure.
Yeah.
I want to transition it off across the pond to the big leagues. Divisional round of the NFL playoffs begins today with Chiefs and Texans and Commanders and Lions. I don't really want to spend too much time on those because I feel both of those are going to go heavily in the way of the 1 seed. But the big game of the week, Ravens and Bills. We have a texter on our text line, Beth, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, as a Bills fan, is this their last best chance? Is our window closing? Such an interesting question.
As long as Allen's there, no.
I tend to agree with that. Josh Allen is my pick to win the MVP this year. I think as long as they build around him, they're adding pieces to build around him. He's got Amari Cooper throwing the ball. What's the Shakir? Is that his name?
Keon Coleman.
Khalil
Shakir.
Khalil Shakir. He's got the two tight ends, Dawson Knox and
Dalton
Kincaid out of Utah.
Yep.
I would argue no. That window is just as wide open. As far as this game, this is a battle of two absolute heavyweights. Bills and Ravens. Ravens obviously have a dynamic rushing game with not just a quarterback who can run it, but
Derrick
Henry, who we shed a bit of a tear for, but Lightning McQueen, as he is calling himself now.
Ka-chow.
I love it. I can't cheer for the Ravens, but I appreciate a good Cars reference. That's one of my favorite movies. But I lean heavy on the Bills in this game. I lean heavy on the Bills in the AFC. I lean heavy on the Bills in the Super Bowl.
Connor.
He wants Bills Mafia, baby.
What are we doing, man?
I
will say a Bills Lions Super Bowl is America's Super Bowl.
Yeah,
that's
but
the dream.
I don't think it's going to happen.
It's not going to happen, but it's the dream. Realistically, I think we're getting Chiefs,
Lions.
Eagles.
Oh, really?
You think the Lions are the Eagles are gonna beat the Lions?
It's a possibility.
The Eagles may struggle with the Rams.
Yeah.
Rams are playing some good ball.
The Lions are injury riddled though.
I mentioned it last week, Connor.
So are the.
Watch out for the Rams.
Yeah.
That was my dark horse.
No, and I doubted you, and I shouldn't have doubted you because I thought the Vikings were going to go in there and just smoke the Rams. And Sam Darnold,
it was bound
may
to
have
happen.
lost yourself a little bit of money there, son.
It was bound to happen. Everybody was going to see what the real Sam Darnold looks like. It ended up happening, and then the Rams now are in a position to where they could potentially go to the next round. But it's going to be a tough battle for them.
I think with everything going on in the world right now, specifically their state of California and their area of Los Angeles, I think they're playing with a little bit of an edge.
Oh, 100%.
I think they are playing for that city and those people, and rightfully so, because what is going on in Los Angeles, California right now is
horrible,
absolutely tragic and horrible. So I kind of lean with the Rams.
Yeah.
I mean, not to win this game, but I kind of, a piece of my heart kind of lies with the Rams saying, I want to see them kind of get the big one done.
I don't know. I am kind of on the opposite ends of everything you're saying. Not just for conversation, but
no, it's okay.
Wholeheartedly, I think the Chiefs are going to beat the Texans today.
Yeah, I do too.
As for Bills and Ravens, I think this is the Ravens' year to overcome the Bills.
Really?
I really do.
I like that pick.
I
like
just
that pick.
There's something about the Ravens that I feel like their window is closing quicker than the Bills. As to the texter's point about is the Bills' window closing? I think the Bills' window kind of reopened this past offseason.
I was very low
absolutely.
on the Bills to start this year.
I had them missing the playoffs. I know that
too.
sounds crazy. I had the Bills and the Niners missing the playoffs. One of those things happened. But looking at the Bills, yeah, they're a good team, but I don't think they have enough to beat the Ravens. The thing that would really worry me about the Ravens is if their secondary kind of lets them down, which is a very probable situation for them. Their secondary hadn't been the greatest all season long. So that might happen, but I'm taking the Ravens on that. As for Lions Commanders, it'll be a fun game to watch, but we know what's going to happen with that. More than likely the Lions.
Jared, did you see the video over the weekend? This kid coming out of surgery had anesthetics. This is in Detroit, mind you. Had full anesthetics. Completely out of it. All he's doing is chanting Jared Goff. Jared Goff. Lions Nation is riding high.
That guy.
I mean, the Lions are my team.
He lives rent-free in everybody's head.
This playoff, I am full Lions. I want to see the mighty team that will not yield get one, because for my entire life, they have sucked.
Yeah.
Like probably your entire life too, Frazier,
Yeah.
aside from maybe one season with Megatron and Matt Stafford.
Yeah, I remember that one season where they were just every other week it was a touchdown. I had them on fantasy. It was incredible.
I was a little young. That was
2012, right?
2012.
Yeah.
I was 8.
They made the playoffs and lost to the Seahawks in the first round, I believe.
I was a
8.
memory on this guy.
Yeah, this guy.
But as for the NFC Championship, I have the Rams winning. I have them beating the Eagles.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the Lions.
I don't hate that one either. I mean,
So
the Rams had 9 sacks on Sam Darnold on Monday night, and
so my AFC matchup and NFC matchup for the championships would be the Chiefs and Ravens, and then
Lions
NFC
and Rams.
Lions and Rams.
Okay.
I like it.
Going back to the Bills, this is one of those games where I think you really see best on best. I think the Bills had the better offense, but I think the Ravens had the better defense. But I think there's one factor we're not putting into the Bills, and that they have a franchise back.
Mm-hmm.
James Cook is a dude, and he's going to have to get paid soon, but he's a dude. So I think they're going to be scheming for Josh Allen, maybe put a spy on him, maybe Patrick Queen is your spy, but don't be afraid to hand it off to James Cook.
Yeah.
Let Cook cook.
Oh, I see what you did there.
So to answer your question, Beth, no, the window is not closing.
And they have another good running back in Ray Davis out of Kentucky.
Yes.
I will say
My
that
guy.
unfortunately he got injured last week. I think it was a concussion or something.
Yeah.
If he's available this week, that's another. It's like they got 2 heads in the backfield.
That's my
You gotta
guy.
Watch out for
Former Vanderbilt Commodore as well, but we all know where he's from.
Yeah.
What's that? What's his college say next to his name?
Kentucky.
Monday Night Football. Ray Davis, University of Kentucky.
Yeah.
He's a Wildcat, baby. Let's make some picks coming up next. Let's pick some NFL playoffs, some national championship. Then we'll throw a wild card in there. You can do whatever you want. That's coming up next. 4's Company 1025, 1063, The Game. 4's Company, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Connor Newt, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly here. Let's make some picks, shall we?
Let's do
Weekend picks, always our final segment of the day. It will be, as always, the final segment of today. Let's start with the big one, the national championship Monday. It all comes down to this. Notre Dame Fighting Irish taking on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Nick Frazier, where are we going with this one?
The last couple of weeks, I've been saying Ohio State. You know how I've also said every time I pick against Notre Dame, they tend to prove me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I think I want to get back on the right track. Here's the thing. I want to get back on the right track. My heart's telling me Notre Dame, but my gut is telling me Ohio State.
What does heart say?
Heart says Notre Dame. I'm going Ohio State.
I'm talking about the band.
Oh,
Listen to your heart.
yeah. I'm not sure. No.
No.
I'm good.
Buckeyes.
I'll stick with the Buckeyes.
No one on this station has been higher on Notre Dame than I have. I told you a month ago Notre Dame was going to the national championship, and everyone laughed at me. Everyone didn't believe me, and they said, "You're just a Homer Catholic." I was like, yes, I am, but it's going to happen. And look where we are now. Am I going to pick them to go all the way? No, it's not going to happen. I think Ohio State just matches up way better than Notre Dame does. I think Jeremiah Smith has 2 touchdowns. I think Will Howard has a day. And I think Ohio State wins by 10. Give me Ohio State 34-24.
Oh, we got scores here. I'm going to go Ohio State 27. No, 31-27. 31-27.
Close.
Yep.
Okay. Parker Kelly, where are we going on this national championship?
Connor, in all fairness, we're still going to laugh at you. That's not going to stop.
That's okay.
So
Why?
I just wanted to know. I mean, a lot of these things that come from this station come from me.
Not wrong.
Notre Dame, the Notre Dame gassing came from me. Chad Brinker as Brock Lesnar has come from me.
Titans are going to tighten.
Titans are going to tighten has come from me. I just want the credit.
put it on a t-shirt, baby.
Yeah,
Put
I
it
just
on a
want the
t-shirt.
credit that I am due, because I start a lot of these things and all these hosts on other shows take it and run. No, it's mine.
Starts here
It
on the
starts
weekends.
here.
Okay, so for this game, give me Ohio State. I predicted them at the start of the season to win the whole thing, just based off who they have on the roster. It's too talented of a roster not to win. What I'll be looking for to see is if Notre Dame does anything different defensively to stop Ohio State. Play a lot of man coverage, that'll get them in trouble. If Ohio State utilizes their receivers correctly, which they have been, I like Ohio State, and I like Ohio State to cover.
Ohio State to cover. So you're talking about 10 or more points here.
Yes,
You think that's going to happen?
I do.
Wow. I just don't see it. I think we're going to get
Slightly, maybe 10,
Yeah.
13.
I say we're going to get must-see TV. It's going to be a close game because it's the national championship. It's going to be the only football game on Monday night.
Well, I do have a response to I want credit.
Uh-oh.
David Janes, our friend, said no.
Oh.
Just no.
David's also a hater, so
Yeah, David's a hater. So
Interesting.
let's go over to the NFL. There are 4 games,
Mhm.
but we don't have time to pick all 4.
Okay.
So pick one of them. Give me a pick.
Give me the Rams. That's going to be the
There you
outlier
go.
pick out of all 4 of these games this weekend, right? I'm going to pick the Rams. I think the Rams are going to be the ones that are going to prevail over Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown. So that's what I'm
Okay.
You?
Nick Frazier takes the Rams. David James, you pissed me off. So I'm going to piss you off now.
Uh-oh.
Give me the Bills to beat the Ravens.
Can I get a score?
Bills. I'll say Bills 31, Ravens 23.
Oh, big margin.
Yeah,
Love that.
8-point margin.
Uh-oh.
I think Josh Allen has a marvelous day. I think Ray Davis gets in the end zone if he is healthy.
Dawson Knox.
Dawson Knox, I could see. I think it's a good day for the Bills Mafia.
Big man touchdown?
I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, okay.
Sean McDermott likes to do stuff like that, though, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Parker Kelly, give me an NFL playoff pick.
I'm going to double down with you, not just because I want to make David mad, which I do. I always have fun with that. I'm actually going Bills to beat the Ravens as well. I think it is going to be the matchup to watch is that Ravens offensive line versus the Bills defensive line. The Ravens like to utilize 6 offensive linemen a lot, and they have 6 300-pounders out there. And then plus when you bring Patrick Ricard out there, who's another 300-pounder, that's 7. Love to run the football out of those types of packages, but I think the Bills are going to win today because of Josh Allen. I think he also deserves MVP over Lamar Jackson if I had to pick. So
Bingo.
I'm going Bills to move on and face the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game.
David says he hopes both of us step on a Lego. So
I'm sure he does.
that is a very painful
I'm
death
sure he
today.
does.
Let's get wild card. As always, you can go anywhere you want with this, any sport. I'm curious to hear what absolutely zany sport Nick Frazier goes with, but give it to me.
It's not crazy. It's MMA. I mean, now
Okay.
we're back to the pay-per-view events for this year. UFC 311. I'm going to the main event. It's probably an easy gimme. Islam Makhachev is going to beat Renato. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's Brazilian. Moicano.
You're asking the wrong guy
Yeah,
here,
sorry.
pal.
He was a late slip into the main event. The previous main event guy ended up hurting his back, and that was like a 1 a.m. phone call. So this guy made weight, and that's your slip in for the main event for 311.
Okay. Frazier doing MMA of
So-
2 guys I've never heard of. But
Hey, Makhachev is unbelievable. He's 26-1-0. I'd highly recommend watching his highlights.
okay.
He's incredible.
I
I mean, same with Renato too. I remember watching him in previous fights as well. But yeah,
okay. I'm wearing the blue today. I have to pick the blue. Kentucky's going to take down Alabama today. I think it's very, very close. I think it's very high scoring. Give me Kentucky 97-94.
ooh,
Yeah.
high scoring. Okay,
Oh, it's going to be high scoring.
It's
It's
going to be high
Bama.
scoring.
I'm going to go back to what we talked about with Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Frazier, close your ears.
I don't like where this is going. I knew. I saw the Paul. heard
Give me the
Paul.
Rebs, baby. Give me the Rebs.
I would counter you on that. I think Mississippi State gets it done today.
And that I leave you with. You're wrong.
You are wrong. Well, that's all the time we have today on 4's Company. Make sure you tune in next week. Jake Lyman will be back, hopefully back from his Appalachian Trail hike or wherever he's doing. But yeah, fun show today, Frazier.
It was a blast.
Fun show.
We covered everything.
Good show. Good participation from our listeners today as well. But
Remember, rugby's back at the beginning of March, so it's on the way. Everybody.
Rugby is back at the beginning of March. Stay tuned though, because we have Vanderbilt basketball later today, taking on the Vols. I believe that is at 2:30 here on 102.5 The Game. And then following, we will have the Predators and the Minnesota Wild live here from Bridgestone Arena, with Max Hurst taking pregame. Pete Weber, Jay Moore, of course, on the call. But as for us, for Nick Frazier, for Parker Kelly behind the glass, I'm Connor Newt. This has been 4's Company on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
See ya.